Good morning, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Happy Thursday. I hope you're thirsty for some pro wrestling punditry because we are going to be pouring some big, piping, hot cups of it here today. I am your Wrestling Inc. managing editor, Nick Hausman, joined here as I am every Thursday by our very good friend, Paul Pratt, a.k.a. Pollo Del Mar. Paul, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
I'm always excited to be here with you, with our audience, our viewers, and the followers of Wrestling Inc. There's a lot to talk about this week, too.
We do have a lot to talk about. By the way, the comment section is obviously open. I hit the live button. Then I started laughing before I did the good morning because Eric Roberts was like, he put up, I wish that dork Nick would stop pointing at me. We have these new thumbnails. I gave our graphics guy several photos of me to choose from. He went with the pointing one, which is fine. But people seem to think I'm like, well, first of all, I'm a little bit of a dork. I don't take that as an insult. But like, you know, I'm selling things by my car. The pointing motion, I guess, has got people thinking a certain way about me right now. You know?
Well, I mean, you know, you got his attention.
Yes. We also have Daniel Price here saying it looks like I'm advertising, I guess, proctology exams with my finger. That's gross. 1, 2. How many can you get in there?
Nick.
What? Hey, I'm just saying, Paul. We're getting it going. I'm thirsty, man. I'm thirsty.
It's usually not like this. It's usually.
Come on.
Anyway.
Man. Come on. Thirst Trap Thursdays. That's what we got here, folks.
Thirst Trap Thursdays.
I think Thirst Trap Thursday. You know, LeBar, I called LeBar a thirst trap one time, and he had never even heard the term. It was like new to him, right? But
yeah, I'm still like reveling in the fact that I'm a low-key replacement for Justin LeBar. And I imagine when these people tune in and they're like, that's not Justin LeBar. No. And Justin LeBar is like, whew, thank God that's not me.
Well, I don't know that he thinks that, right? That's very negative way to think about yourself. So anyway, we have a big show here. Show Paul some love in the comment section. Let him know that Justin LeBar should be envious and should want to be Paul Pratt, right?
Look at me being a thirst trap this Thursday.
Yes, Thirsty Thursday, Thirst Trap Thursdays. We got a lot of news to get to here today. The Second City Saints shadow looms large over the Chicagoland area today for sure. After we talk the news, if you're listening in audio form, you're going to get our latest conversation. This one comes from El Presidente, Raj Giri. He sat down with the Bollywood boys. Obviously, Raj, Indian American. The Bollywood boys, Canadian Indian. Is not American, right?
No.
Whatever. All right. You get it. This was a really insightful conversation. I was really happy it happened. I was actually kind of hoping Raj would get to sit down with the Bollywood boys. So you're going to get it. It's 45 minutes. We don't cut it in half. You're going to get the whole thing here later on. So stick around for that. And if you want to watch it in video form, join the chat along just like we're doing right here. 1:00 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. Head over to the Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel. You can watch it premiere right there. Jump in, talk to other wrestling fans. At the end of the show, we're going to talk about Bray Wyatt. He was caught in a grocery store. Look, I mean, talk about thirst trap. Thirsty Thursday, Bray Wyatt right now, you know? Husky Harris.
Well, yeah, caught in the grocery store. Wow.
All right, anyway. We'll be talking Bray Wyatt in the mailbag, but let's get to it. News you can use, news that'll leave a bruise. A lot of CM Punk news to start the show. So the big one was, and we talked about this with Cassidy Haynes on Monday when he was on here talking about what he knew about the CM Punk Daniel Bryan situation. But it's official. Shivani announced that AEW headed to the United Center here in Chicago, August 20th for Rampage First Dance. Tickets go on sale this Monday. This announcement, I mean, and United Center's 20,000 people. This is it's a big stadium. For whatever reason, they seem to think they could push all these tickets in like a 2-week period. Tons of CM Punk chants filled the crowd. Right after the announcement, Darby Allin, he did this interview. He said he's been around a lot of people who say they are the greatest ever in wrestling. Obviously, and the only place to prove that is AEW, even if you think you're the best in the world. Obviously, that's a reference to CM Punk's catchphrase. So he did that little tease. The Bucks were doing a move that was kind of like CM Punk's knee into the Bulldog in the corner. There was something with MJF at the end when he was addressing Jericho that people are saying was like a Punk reference. So, I mean, if they don't deliver on Punk, Paul, this is going to really shit the bed.
Well, I mean, there's only so much you can do to, first of all, I just have to say that Darby promo was horrible. I was like, could somebody wake him up? You know, like he's supposed to deliver a promo right now, apparently. You know, like, hey,
yeah,
kid,
got it.
But I'm just saying that if this isn't true, if it's not fact based, and they're not going to be announcing him sometime very, very soon, the fact that they've allowed it to go on this long is going to lead to an overwhelming sense of disheartenment and disappointment, no matter what. You know what I mean? So one would presume that this is already locked down so that they can make that announcement. Otherwise, they wouldn't have allowed it to go on so long.
Yeah, and there was the rumors. Now, Tony Khan, I heard, has played down the rumors that he was on this flight to Chicago. It was the family plane. Could have been anybody, right? But, you know, I with that and like Punk doing the Chicago Bulls song, I definitely think maybe they already have some stuff in the can with Punk for United Center. The timing of this is really interesting to me. Here, Rob Humphrey here was the one that said this announcement ruined my night. I have All Out tickets and was looking forward to Punk's debut there. And I had to kind of look at the calendar. I was like, August 20th, that's 3 weeks from now, right? Everybody's already been geared up for these 3 other shows they're going to be doing in Chicago. Just like a couple weeks later, it's going to be a lot. It's going to really test this market. Like, how much AEW can Chicago take? I mean, if you've got Punk, I think that people may be going along for the ride, but it is interesting for sure that they bring him out just a couple weeks before they have 3 other huge Chicago shows.
Well, I mean, if they want to incorporate him into those storylines at all, they're going to need to bring him out a few weeks before this. So, you know, if you've already got your All Out tickets and you're excited and you want to see these superstars there, maybe you will not have the benefit of the debut, but who knows? By then, they could be firmly entrenched in some kind of a story that you'll be invested in 2 weeks or 3 weeks later.
I think what happens, if I had to guess, Punk comes out at this, and by the way, really trying to sell this Rampage show, right? This isn't a Dynamite. This is AEW Rampage. It's going to happen on a Friday, right? So that's a big deal for this new brand, right, that they're trying to launch. I bet when Punk comes out on the show on the 20th, music hits, everybody goes nuts, cuts a promo, maybe he sits Indian style, maybe he sits in a hammock, whatever he thinks is cool. I think he goes 20 minutes, half hour, whatever he wants to do, just in the mic, playing with the fans, you know, talking about what he's been doing, probably bash Vince a little bit, you know, take a shit.
They love those swipes.
Take a shit on Triple H, like, you know, do that thing, right? I think that it gets interrupted, right, by somebody. I don't know exactly who that could be, right? But maybe a Miro, you know, a big top heel for that TNT title, something like that. I don't know, but I think somebody comes out, confronts CM Punk, and sets up what will be his debut match at All Out. So I think we get the promo on Rampage. Yeah. I think we get the debut match at All Out to try to make everybody happy, you know?
You know, and while fans are disappointed, you know, like that they may not get to experience this debut, they are looking to launch an entirely new television entity, and the hype around a potential CM Punk debut on that show, people are going to tune in. They need that.
Yeah. Just have to find your way to stretch out your Punk stuff. And then, like, I don't know if this means that we see Punk then on some other programming on the way to All Out, maybe, or if they just kind of set and wait. You know, I guess you can kind of do whatever you want. But the other thing about this too is, like, I don't get the vibe that Daniel Bryan is going to be in the mix immediately. Like, I think the initial reports about him being held back for Arthur Ashe a month or so after All Out, I actually kind of buy into that now, because, like, the way they're hard selling Punk, I don't know why you would throw Daniel Bryan into the mix right now.
I certainly wouldn't. I would stagger these big names across the next several months if possible. And Brian has asked, you must be seeing a comment.
Finish your thought. Then I'll read the comment.
I would personally drag this out for a while, so to speak. And at the same time, I think that Daniel Bryan has also requested, like a lighter schedule and wants probably to spend some time doing his own thing, being a dad and all of those things that he's been looking forward to be doing.
Yeah. Well, in regards to who people think could confront Punk to set up a match at All Out, we got a super chat here from King Rail. It'll be Cody. He has to face everyone first, right? But maybe, right? I guess he'll be wrapping up stuff with Malachi by then, won't he?
I mean, will he? Well, they have their confrontation this coming next week, I guess, on AEW Dynamite. I would not be shocked if it's Cody. I would not be shocked at all. We've repeatedly said that he has to get first dibs on everyone.
Right.
Last night, of course, he and Malachi Black were, brawling in the back. Cody looked remarkably like a young Colonel Sanders. I couldn't stop thinking how he looked like Colonel Sanders. I was like, Malachi, don't kill him before he comes up with the secret recipe for the chicken.
Mm-hmm. If you watch Food That Saved America, Colonel Sanders was actually like a crazy badass kind of character. Anyway, so I think Cody's there's a good shot with Cody. We have Antonio Garcia here saying Moxley's going to be the one that interrupts. He's good at that, or Punk interrupts Cody Rhodes. But Moxley, I don't think it'll be it. We have this note here from the Observer saying Moxley, he recently talked with Tony Khan about wanting to face a top New Japan superstar at All Out. Apparently, Tony agreed with that. Tanahashi's going to be taking on Lance Archer here shortly in a couple weeks. So if he loses to Archer or Moxley gets involved, that could set up maybe him and Tanahashi. Or maybe like a Moxley Okada. I mean, that would be huge if they could pull that off.
Well, Moxley did cut that promo last night about Tanahashi. So,
yeah, he did. Yeah, but they also said Tanahashi, Lance Archer.
Yes, they did. But my point being that he's already thrown that idea out there that Tanahashi's been ducking him.
Okay. Yes. Well, he also said he had a stack of contracts that he was sending over to New Japan, which I guess
he sent his boy over, his young boy over to fax off.
Yes. I'm guessing that a stack of contracts just kind of Okada. There's one for Jay White. There's just here's a whole bunch. Whoever wants to sign one, decide to kind of come on over, kind of deal.
Exactly.
From that. Braddock here saying Darby Allin and Pyro Ninja actually saying Darby versus Punk. He already called him out. Now, come on, guys. Yeah, he did kind of tacitly call him out there. But again, there were a lot of little teases they did for Punk throughout the night. I don't know if that was teasing.
I think Darby's was the most direct, though.
Yeah.
I think that putting Punk in with somebody like a Darby would obviously do tremendous things for Darby. Also, Punk is he's a large man, but an average size wrestler. You know what I mean? So he would not dwarf Darby like so many other people do, necessarily. And I think that people might like to see that if Punk is coming back as a heel, but would they bring him back as a heel?
Yeah. By the way, let's see here. After Hangman beats Omega, maybe Punk versus Hangman here is what Peter Conklin is saying. It's not bad. Joseph Venditti. Colt Cabana confronts Punk. I saw a couple people in here talking about possible Punk Cabana. I was talking to a friend the other day, and the person I was talking to has no knowledge of the Punk Cabana like intricacies, but they're just somebody I like to talk wrestling with about. And I just said I'm interested to find out what happens with Cabana here. Punk is super territorial. Cabana kind of made his claim after Punk's talks with AEW initially fell apart, and I always felt like the Cabana hire was kind of because Punk wasn't there. I don't really know what that's going to look like. Cabana he did come out with the Dark Order, and they had him in the little Dark Order video up top. From a money making perspective, Cabana coming
there's
out.
No money there.
You don't think a Cabana Punk
no
realliance? You don't think that them working, Cabana in Punk's corner, occasional tag matches? I mean, Cabana's so lost in the Dark Order stuff. And I mean, if you're in Chicago and you want to make a big Chicago moment, if Punk and Cabana came out, even if they just did it for show and went in the back and, went to their separate, trailers or something, I don't know how open Punk would be. It's something I think about. I don't know how that's all going to play out, Paul.
Well, I think in terms of AEW's viewership, of course, like AEW, I think definitely draws. I'm hesitating. I think that they draw a more knowledgeable fan base. I think that the fans are much more knowledgeable about what their performers do outside of AEW and what their history has been. And I think that's in part because AEW always acknowledges those things. At the same time, I think for many viewers, the fact that Colt Cabana is even still on the roster is almost a forgotten commodity. He has been so underutilized. He came in as somebody who was a top name on the indie circuit, a former NWA world champion, all of these things. And they have just done zero with him.
I have a theory about that, Paul. And it all revolves around Punk, right? Because I remember being in the media scrum when I forget it was whatever it was when Punk was like on the show, and somebody asked Tony, "Is he with the company?" And Tony was like, "Oh yeah, he's working back. He's full on. He's all elite." It was one of the few times Tony had announced a talent signing in a scrum. They usually do the graphic or whatever, but Tony went out of his way to announce and confirm Cabana had signed, and this was right after all the stuff with Punk had fallen apart, like the reports that Punk had, like, they had texted Punk, and then Punk came out and was like, "I don't negotiate, big deals over text messages," or whatever pot shot he took. So there was some bitterness there. Cabana comes in, and I don't know if like Punk said something like, "Well, all right, well, F you guys. Like, this is an obvious, like, you don't want me there, right?" And then Tony's like, "Well, we'd love to keep the door open." And that is why they've never made a concerted effort to really invest in Punk. I mean, there was the tease when
in Cabana.
Or in Cabana, yeah. That's why I feel like they've never really made the investment fully in Cabana, because of the lingering possibility with Punk, which obviously is coming to fruition. That's the story around all this that I'm most intrigued by.
I just think that if you have come to an agreement with a talent like Colt Cabana, and somebody else is like off in the wings as a possibility, but you don't even know how that's going to play out, and it's obviously taken over 2 years to get to this point,
right?
You utilize Colt Cabana,
but they don't, man. Like
they don't, and that's my point. Like my point is, like, this is effed. It's fucked up.
But I know Cabana has helped put together. I mean, as an agent, I've heard from a lot of people that worked with him on AEW Dark, where he's very involved backstage, helping to set things up, and has that role just in the ring for whatever reason. Has, outside of the Brody tribute special, really hasn't had that time to shine. Keep an eye. I'm just saying, of all the things that's going to happen when you drop Punk into these waters, keep an eye on it. So on that note, Fightful, saying at the time the Punk AEW story broke, it was still a closely guarded secret. However, there were other media, including us, that had been poking around. We were like aware of the news, but didn't really know how to report it because it didn't sound like he had signed, but we knew they were talking. So anyway, what we, the media, knew apparently was more expanded than what the parties involved actually thought we all knew. So anyway, regarding the ongoing Punk chatter, backstage at AEW, wrestlers that have not worked with Punk have been asking others, how is he to work with? I have heard mixed signals about how Punk joining the AEW locker room is being received. I have heard people are very happy about it. It's a lot of attention for the company. I've also heard there are other people that think that this could be very toxic for the locker room. I think, now that the story of Punk coming in is kind of out there and that wave is starting to crescendo, the effect Punk has on the product, I think, is the next big story here. And there's going to be a lot of little stories that come out of that, Paul.
Well, I just keep going back to the fact that the more people who come in from outside, the farther down the card the people who are on the inside and who've been building this fall. So, I think that we are in a position right now where we're at a tipping point where they've got these homegrown stars who they are getting really, really close, in my opinion, to getting over. People like the Jungle Boys, the Darby Allens, the Orange Cassidys. but those spots are increased. I mean, the way they just do things already is a little weird to me. They'll have like Orange Cassidy in this like major position, and then all of a sudden he's like virtually unseen. Or the same with Jungle Boy. Like they have him in this major match against Kenny Omega, where presumably it sets him up for like this great like upward trajectory for as a singles competitor. And last night, where was he in a trios match? So I'm just not seeing the development for the homegrown talent quite the way that I would like. And I think that every time they bring in one of these big names, the expectation, presumably on both sides, is that those people immediately are going to move into pretty high level contendership and fill out that top level of talent, the main event roster.
Yeah, and if anybody's looking for some more insight into like being in a roster where these names are kind of going around, we did just release the latest Pro Wrestling for Life with Sean Waltman. I asked Sean about that, where I'm like, from a wrestler's perspective, how do you feel like having been through this yourself when you're either watching guys come in, taking spots, or being one of the guys, as he did at WCW, who came in and took spots? And he's like, look, if somebody's better than you, they're better than you, right? Like, you just have to fight and show that you can hold your own. And it's hard when you have seasoned guys with a lot of experience, but that's the nature of the beast. And I thought that was, from a guy like Sean, who's reinvented himself and continued to find ways to fight through it. I mean, it's just killer instinct, live or die.
Yeah, but I think that I definitely think that philosophy is accurate. And while certainly never on that kind of a competitive level, I've found myself in talent pools where, people, there's a set number of spots, right? And you get to fight for them. But I think that one of the things that presumably would factor into this is that the idea of AEW providing an alternative for, or alternative to, a different product was what this entire situation was built on. And the more people they add to their roster, like, you can watch, and it's almost impossible to go even one match without finding somebody who literally just came over within the last year from WWE.
Well, back to kind of the idea of Cabana and Colt kind of coming together. Bill's Mafia STF wrote, LOL, Colt has been noticeably irritable on Twitch when people talk about Punk. That will not happen. I'm with you, Bill's Mafia, and I didn't know. I guess Cabana does Twitch. Yeah, I'm with you, man. Just doesn't seem possible right here for me at the moment. And let's see here. Is there any? We have to move along with the sheet. Let's see here. We'll go with one more. Eric Roberts. Casual fans aren't going to buy a pay-per-view for Jungle Boy until they book him correctly and he gets better on the mic. We know what Punk can bring, and they know we'll buy. There's that again.
Yeah, but I 100% agree with that. When it comes to someone like CM Punk, he's bringing in tremendous name recognition. He's bringing in tremendous body of work that people already know and support. The point I'm making in direct contrast to that, though, is that these younger talents are never going to get that opportunity if they keep getting moved off of television or off of any of the programming. I mean, I'm glad they have AEW Dark, and I'm glad they have AEW, Elevation. I don't even watch Elevation, and I scarcely watch Dark. So maybe I'm the casual viewer, right? Like maybe I'm that casual viewer. I watch AEW Dynamite every week, but if people are not getting time on there, it's like Colt Cabana. It's easy to forget he even exists.
There were also a couple of quotes you go find from Tony Khan and Stephen Amell where they really didn't say anything about Punk. They just kind of threw some sand, pocket sand into your face. But AEW Dynamite also featured last night Chris Jericho defeating Nick Gage in the main event, no DQ match. We saw glass, we saw light tubes, we saw pizza cutters. How do you think this came across as the main event for Gage for Jericho? Everything.
I thought that the match was, more or less what you would expect. I felt it was a bit tamer than what we normally see from Nick Gage, but at the same time, that's to be expected.
Yeah.
You can't present something that looks like borderline murder on network television. So there's that part of it. Again, like there's something that just, I don't know the big plan for their, labors 4 and 5. I know what they have planned for labor 3.
Right.
this match seems to me significantly more important than Labor number 3 did. I feel like Nick Gage going against, I mean, in my mind, they have to have something really, really incredible set up for the 5th Labor, because otherwise, if it were me and I was MJF, I would do everything would be like to weaken him just in case he gets past that 5th one. This would have been my 5th Labor. Like, you cut him to ribbons, destroy him, and if somehow he gets past you, he's coming to me in like 6 different pieces.
Yeah, after watching this, I was like, oh, Chris Jericho's going to murder Juventud Guerrera next week. No doubt.
I mean, I saw in the run sheet, like, something that you had mentioned that he can't use the top rope, but I thought when I watched that he said that he has to finish him with a move from the top rope.
Oh, was that it was?
I thought that's what I heard. I mean, the listeners here can confirm that. Was it that Jericho cannot use the top rope, or that Jericho must use the top rope? Because
Daniel Price saying you've got to land a top rope move.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
He has to hit a top rope finisher, just a jump off the top rope against Juvi. Who booked that? Well, Tony Khan did. It all runs through Tony.
Yeah, I mean, it was a scenario where I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult for me to understand. Like I said, they must have something incredible planned for the 5th or in the 4th. This 3rd one, it's great. It's like, a walk down memory lane. But as far as I'm concerned, Nick Gage, 100. I don't think that's going to be that, Antonio, but the Nick Gage, until matter of days ago, was the GCW World Heavyweight Champion. And the man is like the king of the death match. So putting him in there against somebody like this, how do you top a death match? It's literally a death match.
Well, you did. Okay, so I threw this
multiple people are now saying Braun Strowman.
I threw this up on the screen to mess with you while you were talking. Yeah, there are a lot of people say the 5th Labor is going to be big old Braun Strowman. That'll be the last person he's got to roll through to get to MJF. Oh,
God forbid. I pray not.
And I don't know what this does for Gage. I almost feel like it's a wash. Like, I don't know that this raised his profile, because, like, did you get national exposure? Do more people know Nick Gage now?
Of course.
Maybe.
They do.
I don't know. Like, a lot of people that watch AEW, I feel like already kind of knew Nick Gage. But by losing Jericho, does the aura around Nick Gage that, like, drives his popularity get taken away? I kind of think about Joey Janela, right? Like, Joey Janela, before he signed with AEW, could do no wrong. That man was main eventing, dream matches, had, Giancarlo personally making him look like the coolest, person on the planet with every video. And as time has gone by with AEW, I feel like, and I know to the GCW faithfuls, Joey's always going to be Joey, but the aura around Joey Janela pre-AEW, and I think he'd probably tell you the same thing, is just not there the same way. And I kind of wonder if AEW sacrificed the aura a little bit of Nick Gage for a moment. I don't even know to really put Jericho on another level, just for a moment. It's weird to me. I don't know how I felt about it after the match.
I think that it's something that I think about, like, every time. As much as I love Tommy Dreamer, every time Tommy Dreamer walks into the ring at this juncture, it's like, well, there is no, he's Tommy Dreamer. He's a great person. He's this ECW legend, but you're capitalizing on that all these years later. I think that Nick Gage is, like, again, if they had rolled him out as the 5th, like, you have to go through this because there's nothing higher than defeating Nick Gage.
Yes.
And also, I don't know, for those of you who watched it on television, I don't think that you get those sort of, like, behind the scenes commentary during the picture-in-picture or whatever. But at one point, JR said on commentary, everybody's the king of the death match these days.
Yeah, I heard that too. He was totally burying this. Jim Ross.
It was like, everybody's the king of the death match these days, aren't they? And then I think Tony Schiavone was like, yeah, but Nick Gage really is, like, the king of the death match.
And JR made some comment too, where he's like, oh, we're all having fun now, I guess. Like, you could tell. I would have just been like, dude, lay out. Like, if you're not going to call it, Don't call it, Jim.
He did not enjoy. This is obviously not his wheelhouse.
No.
It's not his favorite thing, and that came across in the broadcast. I felt like MJF really added a lot to that commentary for this match, and I felt that parts of this is not my wheelhouse either. Like when I was at Effie's Big Gay Brunch and AJ Gray and Billy Dixon were doing their death match thing right in front of me and like cutting each other with light bulbs. I turned away. And then like during this match on television, I turned away for parts of it too. It's not my favorite thing to watch, but I also would not bury it as it's a definite form of talent, because if you can put up with this kind of pain and brutality, that's a talent.
Yeah. Sure. Put him on. America's Got Talent, right? Put Nick Gage on stage and just have Simon Cowell shoot him with a nail gun, right?
Right. Well,
he's the modern day Mick Foley. Eric Roberts, this is a one and done for Gage. Jericho barely had offense and still won. Am15 Slaughterhouse said, I feel Gage is nearing towards retirement. I don't know about that, but if you were looking to kind of get those last big moments in, this would certainly be on that list for him. But I just don't see Gage ending anytime soon. That just doesn't seem like in his blood. I think he's going to be Terry Funk, in my opinion.
He literally said that he hopes to die in the ring. I think that, what we have to remember here is that I think that Nick Gage, has created a tremendous, as you called it, aura for himself. He's become iconic on this independent circuit type of level. But I think that in the heart of every wrestler or every person who steps in the ring, you probably have to have that desire to be seen on a global level all at one time, to have that moment even for yourself. And I think that if we, just because Nick Gage is this incredible badass, to think that he probably, even when somebody says, oh, F you, like, I don't need that, in their heart, they're like, they to some level, they still want it. So if that was what this was for him, or if it was his opportunity to get this big payday for doing this or whatever, and there is no shame in losing to Chris Jericho for anyone, even for Nick Gage.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. This was not a death match, but maybe the scariest, bloodiest, gnarliest moment of the night came when Cash Wheeler had an arm injury during the FTR versus Proud and Powerful match. The incident occurred when FTR was attempting a superplex splash combo. The Santana broke up the spot by sending Wheeler off the top to the floor. The match then ended abruptly after a few minutes after Wheeler's partner Dax got the pin following a brainbuster. Harwood then went to check on Wheeler, who was surrounded by medical attention, and he was holding his arm here. And fans in attendance noted that Wheeler appeared to get his arm stuck in a metal plate on the ring post. PW Insider saying Wheeler suffered a really bad cut, no shit, and there's no word on whether he's going to miss any action. He was said to be okay in the back, but no word on if he's going to miss action. It was noted that Wheeler's injury was a complete freak thing after he was shoved off the ropes and his arm connected with the metal ring, or the metal between the ring post and the turnbuckle. Holy God, Paul, this sounds so incredibly painful.
Yeah. So I think that when it was going down, when I was watching this match, I was paying especially a close attention to this match because I am a lifelong fan of tag team wrestling, and Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz, and FTR, two of the top teams in the industry today. This was a dream match because, they were in different companies for a long time doing their thing. This was a dream match to watch as a one-on-one team situation. And then to see him, it was noticeable when he fell, you could see him clutch his arm and race to the side. So I was cued in pretty early that something was really, really off. And then at the end, when you saw him surrounded and his arm bloodied, you were like, oh, something that did not go as planned.
No. And I don't want to speculate, but when you're going down and, you've seen fabric tear, right? When you catch a hook, God damn, that thing could be really bad. And you see him, good Eagle Scout, right? Applying that pressure, really keeping it tight. You don't clinch white knuckled your arm like that unless you are very concerned about the amount of blood you are losing. So, whew.
Yeah. Or you're in just super serious pain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like, ah.
All
So
right.
yeah, I'm best, like best wishes for him. I tweeted it too this morning, like, because I watched this morning, and I hope that, he's back sooner rather than later, and there's no permanent damage done from that.
Yeah, Brian Bills 14-17. He was definitely in shock. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, right? That's a very traumatic thing when you, again, I compare your skin to a piece of cloth getting caught by a hook. Jesus. All right. Lastly, here coming out of Dynamite, pro wrestling legend David Crockett attended this week's AEW Dynamite tapings in North Carolina. He's going to be a guest commentator on next week's AEW Dark Elevation. Shivani and Crockett were the announce team for World Championship Wrestling, the flagship show for Jim Crockett Promotions and later WCW. Between 1985, the year I was born, and 1988, Ross joined the team in 1988. I don't know a whole ton about David Crockett, but this seems like for nostalgia buffs, I don't know, nice get. What do you think about David Crockett here?
I think that if there's anyone from the professional wrestling world who's between the age of 70 and death, AEW has a spot on their roster for you. I think that they will do anything in their power to recreate those old videos that somebody must have been watching. I'm a much more mature wrestling fan, and David Crockett wasn't even that spectacular in my opinion when he was there. That team really came to life with Jim Ross, so I bless their hearts. Bless their hearts.
Shots fired. Ha ha ha, says Bex Marie. Yeah, dude, like the demo god, right? The demos are already so bandied about. Nobody's ever talking about the demos of the 70 to death demographic. How many people are watching that? I don't know if Nielsen's tracking that or not.
Well, it's hard because before they can press the button to let people know they're watching, they're just like,
all right, thank you, Paul. We get it. Old wrestling fans love David Crockett. All right, yesterday, the following recommendation.
Did you say Davy Crockett?
I said David Crockett, but
Davy Crockett. They're the same age, y'all, but they're totally different people.
I don't think David Crockett is walking around in a raccoon skin cap.
But you don't know.
All right, hey, we got a super chat here before I guess we roll along. This is from Loki07. He says, AEW has a serious booking problem, in my opinion. Acts like LAX, Private Party, and Lucha Brothers have been reduced to mid-carders. It doesn't matter if you have big stars coming in, if you don't know how to use them. And I don't necessarily agree, I think, because I look what WWE has done to their mid-card, and that's a bunch of people I don't care about. I still feel like a lot of AEW matches largely mean something. If for no other reason than, these are people trying to grab some clout or credibility or moment. AEW matches still feel more to me, and their wrestlers are more three-dimensional to me than two. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I would look at a lot of the people that you mentioned that super chat mentioned, FTR and Proud and Powerful, Santana Ortiz. I think that they still are meaningful. Now, I tweeted also this morning, does anybody remember when Private Party had a unique look and were two up-and-coming stars that had great potential and futures ahead? No? Well, that used to be a real thing. They have been taken from the cusp of being stars and real contenders to legitimately the most generic two people.
I think they got I think that the comparisons between them and Street Profits shot them in the foot. I think the fact that you kind of saw both kind of entities coming out doing kind of similar openings, there was a lot of comparisons. I don't know that did them any favors,
I think that, so there's a comparison there. I think that I don't believe that every African-American tag team is the same. So I think that even though that, they have a gimmick or a shtick that people may compare to somebody else, I don't think that should limit them. I thought they were fantastic at what they did. I liked them as they were, they could have been heels. I think what ends up happening is that we see so many people who just get lumped together for no apparent reason. And then what ends up since the people, if they maintain any identity, don't fit together, you have to erase their identity so that they just become members of this hardy compound cult, where nobody has any personality whatsoever.
Okay, fair enough. All right. All right. Well, I've got a couple WWE items here before we get to Raj the Bollywood Boys. We'll real quick dive into some Bray Wyatt chatter to close the show. Yesterday, following recommendations from the CDC, Nevada Governor Steve Sisolak announced that Nevada will be re-implementing a statewide mask mandate, which will require masks to be worn indoors by vaccinated and unvaccinated citizens. The mandate will begin this Friday. The mandate was reinstituted due to 12 of Nevada's 17 counties containing substantial or high transmission of COVID-19. That would include Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is located. This is in line with the CDC's recommendation for communities with high transmission. Now, there's no word on how, if at all, this is going to affect WWE SummerSlam, scheduled to take place less than a month from now on August 21st at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, which is an indoor domed facility. And I don't know, man. Like, it's not, this isn't, we're escalating now again. We're not, I don't know if there's a chance, like, they would cancel SummerSlam, but, like, I guess we kind of see how bad this thing gets, right?
I don't think they're going to cancel it. The Las Vegas mayor at the height of COVID, the first go round, basically called for people to come and do whatever they wanted in Vegas. But I think that obviously people are going to be wearing masks. This is going to be a masked event. So you're going to be sitting there wearing masks the same way we did when I went to all those events in Jacksonville at Daly's Place. We all had to wear our masks unless you were actively eating or drinking. So I think that that's what the mandate's going to be. And it's increasing in other places too. California is back moving towards that, and other places will be doing the same.
Eric Roberts says, I was in Vegas last month. It was mayhem. Zero surprise, masks are coming back. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. Obviously, get vaxxed. I've started wearing a mask again when I do. So I took my dog to the vet this morning. I had to wear a mask in the vet. It's okay, everybody. I would just like to say that AEW announcing their huge United Center show the night before SummerSlam. Okay, I don't think that's being talked about enough here right now. Totally threw off my travel plans because I had booked to leave on Friday night to be in Vegas for Saturday to do coverage and everything. Now we have to figure out how are we going to cover both of these gigantic things. And it was a headache I didn't want this morning on top of everything else I was dealing with. Too many shows going on right now. But man, dude, if Punk comes out on the eve of SummerSlam, damn, dude, like that's going to be really something. And he's going to piss all over that company, like a dog that's marking its territory.
Well, I think that, I think it's, look, how better to like get a leg up than to have all of the world talking about your show from the night before as opposed to the show that's happening tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also here from Fightful, WWE recently let go of several employees from various departments such as marketing, merchandising, other consumer product areas. Noted that several people let go over the last few months were told by other people still with the company that there's a good chance they're going to be brought back at some point. We saw a similar situation with WWE furloughing dozens of employees due to the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020 and then brought some of them back months later. This just seems to be another situation of the company evolving and who they need on hand evolving with those decisions. Any thoughts?
Other than the fact that I think that, first of all, this is a great cost-cutting measure across the board. Number one, it's not a nice humanitarian effort, but it's a great cost-cutting effort. And then they can selectively return people that they need, presumably with like 5 times the workload when they need it. But, this is not uncommon. We're talking about this because we are fans of WWE, but major retailers did this as well. So, like when you have a reduced capacity in your store, you can't have everybody on. So, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. So,
all right. Well, let's move on to the single most trafficked news item on the website yesterday. I guess not surprisingly. So Carmella finished her match at Sunday's non-televised WWE Super Show live event in Louisville, Kentucky, despite suffering a wardrobe malfunction. I guess if you just put Carmella wardrobe malfunction in a headline, pay your bills. She kept it together. She kept herself covered. Bianca Belair and her, they tangled to the finish. Belair got the win. She was never exposed. And she tweeted out afterwards, y'all wish, bikini emoji. So there you go, Paul. Most trafficked item of the day yesterday Carmella, wardrobe malfunction.
Not a shock at all.
Yeah. All right. Lastly here, before we get to the Bollywood boys, Ronda Rousey got international attention yesterday, tweeting out the following. Everyone judging Simone Biles doesn't know their foot from their asshole when it comes to being in her position. She's on the Olympic team, or you're on Twitter. Whatever is going on cannot be grasped from the outside. She's doing the absolute best she can given the situation that she's in. And I'm honestly a little surprised to see Ronda. I mean, I know she, relates as a fellow athlete and all that, but traditionally Ronda is not making such kind of progressive thoughts and declarations to the world. It just caught me a little off guard.
Ronda's about to be a mom. You know what I mean? Like, Ronda's about to be a mom. She's sitting there just like infused with hormones that she's never had before, which are bringing up emotions she's never had before. And, I think that, the thought of like what you might put yourself through changes when you're starting to have think about well, would I want my kid to do this? Like those kind of things. But at the same time, I also think that she's a woman in athletics who's had shit tons of opinions thrown at her over the years. And it's one thing to be like, no, I'm strong and I can do this and whatever. But to hear that same kind of bullshit projected at other people presumably pulls out a different emotion.
All right, Paul, I want to thank you for joining me at the top.
And by the way, I think I just want to say in finality, I think that she is right. Like we do not have a clue what Simone Biles is going through,
Yes.
So.
Okay. Yes, I agree.
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Paul, for joining me at the top of the show. Talk all the news of the day. We have about 10 minutes left here to close this thing up before we debut the Bollywood Boys video over on YouTube. Always delightful up top chatting the news of the day. Thank you for a very lively comment section here today. We are not out of the woods yet. We have the mailbag still to go. And today's poll question comes to us from @WinkDaily over on Twitter. That's the account to follow. We have 1,119 followers right now. You could be number 1,120. That's a very special number. So go follow us over on Twitter, and you can be that 1120. I promise you, that can be you. All right, today's poll question stems from the jacked photo of Bray Wyatt that was captured by a grocery store employee. Go check it out on the site if you'd like to see it. Who do you want to see Bray Wyatt feud with when he returns to TV? John Cena, Alexa Bliss, Roman Reigns, or somebody else? About 350 votes here in the last hour. 39.8 Alexa Bliss, 28% Roman Reigns, 12.7 John Cena, and 19.5% somebody else. So 1 in 5 fans, somebody off the list. Who do you want to see Bray Wyatt feud with most?
I think that for him to come back, excuse me, I think for him to come back and feud with anybody other than Alexa Bliss initially would not make sense to me. His disappearance, was her doing in some capacity. So I think that that's the initial place that I would put him. I do think that, he has a rich history with a lot of people. We just saw Finn Balor return to the main roster. So that's a rich history that they could redelve into as well. So there's a lot of possibilities.
I really, what I hope, and it's not probably going to happen, but they never explained how John Cena was able to escape the Firefly Funhouse following his WrestleMania match. He just kind of came back, didn't even reference it. What if he's like a sleeper agent for the Fiend, right? What if the Fiend has put a little piece of him up in John Cena's brain, right? I could see coming out of the Roman match, some kind of moment there with him and Cena. I don't really know what that looks like. I don't know, whatever that could be. But I think Bray versus Roman Reigns, after Roman gets through Cena, and there's going to have to be something there before we get to Survivor Series, I think Bray's going to go back with Roman. I could be wrong, but I just think that they are going to need a top star to work with Roman through that period, and I think Bray may be the guy for that. So, that's my thought. Anyway, we have here a couple write-ins. 6 Rings 9880. Nothing would fire me more than a 5-year feud with Reginald every 205 Live and main event for 60 months, capped off with a main event WrestleMania match for the 24/7 championship. He was not the only one to write in Reginald, by the way. I got another
I saw Reginald multiple times on Twitter.
Yeah. People love their Reginald right now, Paul.
They, really, it's a breath of fresh air for that 24/7 title. So,
okay. Original write-ins here at Barrow-sama93, Drew McIntyre. I thought about Drew. He's going to need something when he finishes up with Jinder and Co. I don't know. Let's see. We have Lily from Tam Lazan. Bobby Lashley, the Duke of J. I mean, I would hope Lashley's going to roll through Goldberg. He would need somebody. I guess we could see another dimension from Lashley if they did him with Fiend, but that's not the kind of lane I want Lashley in at the moment. How about you?
I wouldn't mind Lashley versus Bray Wyatt. I think that they could put on a great match. It wouldn't bother me to see a different facet of Bobby Lashley. I just don't think that that's the direction they want to take him.
I like this one here from Dino Garofalo on Twitter. I want Bray to feud with Damian Priest and put him over. And Damian Priest has a kind of dark side to him. He, in real life, has like a collection of skulls. He's like a skull collector. So I could see Damian Priest maybe getting something pulled out of him working with the Fiend.
Like, what would you see? What do you think they would pull out of Damian Priest?
I think you could see him go to like a darker,
like a skull out of him.
No, I'm just saying, pull out like a darker side of him to kind of combat the Fiend. I think you could see. He's kind of been presented as this kind of entourage type, well-dressed, fun guy.
Yeah, like the character they've developed for him to me is like borderline bland. It is. It doesn't have it doesn't have as dark of an overtone as like his actual entrance or anything like that has. But if I were to pick somebody, the person I would like to see him go against would be maybe like Karrion Kross. Like, I think that they would be a really nice dark combo. Yeah. Danny Cochran. Donnie Cochran.
Yeah.
Good
we
job.
also have Daniel Pricer saying Wyatt versus Cross, Scarlett versus Alexa as a subplot. That's kind of intriguing.
It would be very intriguing, I think.
Okay. I'm kind of sold on that. I saw a couple people here write in where some people wrote in Sheamus. Let me find one that's a little bit further back. Yeah, here we go. Braddock here. Sheamus versus The Fiend for the U.S. Championship. Doesn't grab me. Doesn't grab me. No.
Nope.
We have, let's see here. Anything else I want to pull up here? Bray Wyatt versus Goldberg makes a ton of sense. Says Cubs fan for life 93. Come on, Cubs fan. I'm a Chicago guy. I don't want to see that.
I just don't. I don't want. I've grown tired of Goldberg getting trotted out like he has been.
Yeah.
Like, you're not winning any matches, so why are you walking in as expecting to be that top spot?
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody so much for chiming in on the poll. Real fun mailbag. Great conversation today. The wrestling news never seems to stop anymore. So come on back tomorrow. Big show. Christy Olsen and I to wrap up the week talking the news. And we're going to include the full audio from WWE's Q2 investor call. That's going to be taking place later today at like 5 Eastern. So I'll be on that call. We'll have Vince, Tony Khan, Stephanie, whoever else wants to sit in on that. Taking questions from investors, recapping everybody on how their Q2 went. Always a very important call. So tomorrow, come back. You'll get the show and you'll get the full audio from that. If you like the Wrestling Inc. Daily, support WrestlingInc.com on all the socials. And at night after the big shows, come right back here on Wrestling Inc.'s YouTube and social channels to watch the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Same thing, different faces. And you can also subscribe to that on your favorite podcast platform, just like the Daily. Paul, anything you want to put over here to wrap up the show today?
Oh, man, I've got so much pro wrestling related stuff coming up. I'm stoked. We are going to be doing with the UGWA, the Underground Wrestling Alliance, is going to be returning to the Ritz in San Jose, California on August 8th. I'm going to be working with your buddy, Kevin Gill, and on that show. And if you are in Northern California, pop over to East Bay Pro Wrestling on August 14th as I, spoiler alert, am going to 100% lead Money, Power, Respect, Marco Mania and Fabioso Fabriz to the East Bay titles. And finally, no matter where you are in the world, tune in on Fight TV on Saturday, August 28th, as I am going to be at NWA Empower with Jamie Senegal and all of the other fabulous female superstars. And I cannot wait.
Awesome. Well, and hey, that's all great. August 13th, if you're in Chicago, come hang out with me, Replay Lincoln Park. We're going to be at an AEW Rampage premiere watch party. That's the official AEW Rampage party. They're sending us all kinds of swag to blow it out, free video games. You got to pay for beer and cocktails, but you're going to probably walk away with an AEW shirt. So if you're in Chicago, August 13th, I think we're going to start up at 7:30 Central. I'll be there. EJ Cameron might be there, but we're going to have a great time here in the city. Of course, support Pro Wrestling for Life and support this show. Go to our iTunes page. Leave us a nice rating, comment, all that type of stuff. Helps keep us alive, find new listeners and viewers. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Go catch the Bollywood Boys, 4 minutes, right here, Wrestling Inc. YouTube channel with Raj Giri. Jump in that comment section. We'll keep this thing going. I'll talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.